Hello and welcome to this video on how to troubleshoot your Hayward Prologic or Hayward Aqualogic test system. On this system, you will see the display can be different depending on the system you have. Here, the front panel has been removed to do the test and to show you different things. The board can be a little bit different because there are two versions of the board, but all the instructions we're going to see here today are valid on the different systems. So you see here, we have the filter running. That's an important thing. So we're simulating a filter and we have the check system on. So let's see what's the error. You can press the arrow and you see here we have coordinator of test salt level. So this can indicate different things. It can indicate a problem with the cell or really a real problem with the salt level. So the first step that I suggest is to press menu multiple times until you see menu locked. And we are going to unlock the menu by pressing simultaneously and holding both arrows here. And you see we have menu unlocked. We want to verify that the cell type configured is the right cell. Depending on the system, you might have a choice. So on the older system, there's no choice. That means that it can support only a T5. On a bit more recent system, you'll have T5 and T15 on Aqualogic, and on the Prologic, on multiple versions, you can select all the 4 types of cells, so T3, T5, T9, or T15. So I'm going to press the arrow here. We see chlorinator config. We press the plus sign, upper arrow. Chlorinator is enabled, it's important, but if it was not enabled, you'll not be able to see the error that we had. We press the right arrow here. And then we see the cell type. With the arrow, I can change the cell type, see? So if we have the wrong cell type, you'll have error in reading your salt level. So it's important that this configuration matches your cell. So again, if you don't have that option, that means you can only have a T15 cell. So if you replace your cell and you bought something else, that's not compatible with your system. If you have a more recent system, verify that you have the right one, because sometimes people replace a T15 by a T9 or something like that, or a T5, and then the systems needs to be reconfigured. So we ensure that we have the right cell type. Then we're going to go in the diagnostic menu by pressing multiple times the menu button until we see diagnostic menu. So here you see chlorinator of test salt level. So the first thing that you should do, just to be sure, please have a test a water test with the pool store so they can tell you how much salt you have, and then you can compare it with the system. So let's start this. Let's say, for example, just one thing important. If the pool store tells you have between 2,700 and 3,400, maximum 3,500, then that means you should be good. If you have a higher or lower salt level, then you need to adjust your water. And if you add salt, always remember that the salt system must be turned off while you're adding the salt, and you leave it running a while. They say a word 24 hours with the pump running with the salt system off. So that's very important, because if not, you're going with the time to damage your board eventually, and you need to have it repaired. So here we see we want to start the test. So when you're in the diagnostic menu and you have the error, you press the plus sign here. What it's going to do is it's going to start the countdown and then force the salt system to start. Depending on the issue you will have a message that can be displayed, and it can immediately turn off, or it can turn off quickly. So in my test here, we have different values, but the important thing just for now, we're going to reset our salt average, because we see we have 2,900. So here, by pressing the right arrow and then the plus sign, I'm going to save that. Why? Because the system is calculating and computing the salt level on an average of 24 hours. So let's say I fixed my salt level, I changed my salt type that was misconfigured here, and then it's showing the right value in the diagnostic menu. I want to reset the average value, because if the average value is wrong, the system will stop. So that's why you need to reset it once it's fixed here and once it's matching what you have. You might have a difference between the reading from a water test and your cell. So a difference of 2, 3, 4, 500 is not a big thing. It can be normal because there are errors in the test, and the system is not perfectly also measuring the salt level, and the cell can be older. So when your cell is older, you're going to see that this value will be lower than the value the pool store will give you. So let's say if the pool store gives me 3,500 and I'm getting 2,900 here, I know that my cell is getting a bit older. So, and it will continue like this. And when a cell fails, normally that value will get lower, lower, and lower. So, and eventually it can totally fail, or it can just be having a big difference, and then you need to replace the cell. So we see here, I'm just going to press the plus button. So when I press the plus button, I'm going to reverse the polarity on the cell, because when we want to test your system, you can have issue with the board or the cell, and you need to test both polarity. So I just reset it. Now you see it started again. So the 4 values here needs to be sent to us if there's something. That's how we troubleshoot. So the plus is the here plus 25 volts, the amp going in the cell, water temperature, and the salt level. So the salt level is simply computed using those 3 values, and the cell type. That's how the system knows how much salt there is in your pool. For example, if you see here, I'm going to drop the water temperature in my simulator, and you see the salt level will increase, because it's a simulator, it's not a real box, but you see that the temperature influences the conductivity of the water. So that's why the temperature must match also your water temperature. So we have a plus value. Let's press it again, and then here it's going to start, and we're going to take note of the values when the polarity is reversed. So let's wait until it finishes, and then we see the different values. So normally the values when the polarity is showing plus or showing minus should be very similar. So if there's a mismatch, then contact us. It can be a board issue, or often it's going to be an issue with the cell. It's not something happening frequently, but it happens. Another thing to check, when you do this, every time you do this, if you have some kind of error, like let's say no cell power, it can go very quickly. So what we suggest is take your phone and start recording a video and press the plus sign, and then you'll be able to see what's the error message and send it to us. So when it's erasing fast and going away fast because the error is important, please take a video. Now here we have what we call the flow sensor. I have again a simulator, so it's a bypass to test the system. So I'm going to remove it to show you what's going to happen. So the flow sensor ensures that there's ongoing flow in the system. So even if my filter is on, now I see no flow. So I see that my filter is on. And if I had a pump, I will hear it running, but I have a no flow error. What can be the issue? It can be an issue with the board or the connector. It can be an issue with your connector on your flow sensor or the flow sensor itself. So when you have no flow, the first thing to do is you can use that little bypass, and you can connect it here and see if the system will start. If then you see the flow delay, so now it detects the flow. So now we know that the board is not the issue. So then the next step in that case is to try to test with a multimeter the flow sensor. Often the connector can be damaged. That's something that we see often, and less frequently the flow sensor itself can be defective. So if it's the case, it needs to be replaced. You cannot leave this bypass. This is a security feature. It's just to test, because it can be dangerous. That's why they put a bypass. That's why they put that flow sensor. So the flow sensor is a security feature. It cannot be disabled except if you need to test to confirm that the board is okay and that your flow sensor is the faulty. One little thing that you can see still, if you go back again to the diagnostic menu, it's also interesting because now we see no flow. I remove it. Then the for sure instant stall cannot be measured, no flow. But then you have the cell temp sensor. So we talk about this. This should indicate your water temperature. It should be close to it. If you have a big difference, then you have error reading the salt level. So sometimes we see that the sensor can be faulty, or if the value is very bad, this connector for the cell, this is the connector where your cell goes in, can be defective. We sometimes see oxidized connector. We can replace that. We can repair it or damage the board. And if it's a cell, then we don't do that. So if I click here, then I have my water temperature. So this is from another probe that is connected on the side here. That can have a little difference, but that's the water sensor, and the system is not using this value to calculate the salt level. It's really using the previous value coming from the cell temp. If I continue, I have my air sensor. Then if you have a solar system, you have your solar system. And after that, the interesting thing, the software revision, the display revision. If you have a wireless antenna, you see the version here. And then if you continue, we're going back. So on the board here, you have the connector for the different temperature and other things. And here you see this is the connector connecting to my wireless antenna. So that's about it for troubleshooting, basic troubleshooting on the system. The next video will show you how to remove and reinstall the board to send it for repair.